What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Welcome in. We are just getting started. We're going to go in and add our friends over here on Facebook and on YouTube. Just give me 2 seconds and I'll get that taken care of. All right. All right, folks. All right. Give me 1 second. All right, and we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Falcons Podcast with your host, Garrett Chapman. We have a lot to jump into here on the show today. Of course, as always, I'm going to be taking your questions, and it's a jam-packed show. We got a critical matchup here for this Atlanta Falcons team who's looking to get back on the winning side of things. Please, can they get it done? They've lost 4 games in a row, each in different types of ways, right? We've talked a lot ad nauseum on this podcast about how much of a strain that these last couple of weeks have been. But look, everything can change on a Sunday. And look, this is a Falcons team who wants to get back on the winning side of things. They expect to be back on the winning side of things. These are a lot of guys who are coaching and playing for their jobs right now. And I think that much is very clear. But we're going to talk about what it's going to take for the Falcons to get a win over the Carolina Panthers here on Sunday in Week 11. We're going to do that here on the Falcons Podcast. I'll take your questions. So if you have anything, you want to drop them into the comment section, feel free to do that. And then once we do that, then of course we're going to kind of dig into some of these other contexts. And if you want to talk about something, just drop it in there. Of course I'll get to it in the order that I can. But then, of course, we also have some injury updates. We have some roster moves that we got to address. And then what the heck happened with Darnell Mooney over the summer. And we're going to talk a little bit about all of it. But welcome in. Thrilled that you guys are all jumping into the podcast here this morning. So welcome wherever you are getting your podcast. But while you're at it, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast. I really appreciate everybody who supports the pod. And everything that we have going on. So I'm very excited for just to talk some Falcons football with all you guys. All right, so let's start here. Before we get into kind of the discussion here about the game coming up here on Sunday, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on here on the field. So LaCale London is the only full participant today. It is a long list of injured players. It is not super great in that regard, but it is some positive progression here from a handful of players. The DMPs, I'll start with those guys. Of course, I mentioned LaCale London as a full participant. But as far as the DMPs go, Josh Woods, he picked up a hamstring injury in the game last week. I don't know if he's going to play or not. Based off of some of the, context clues, I guess you could say, I've picked up there at Flowery Branch. I do not expect that Josh Woods is going to be playing. Now, that's going off of my gut. And nothing more. Leonard Floyd is kind of in that same realm. He's also dealing with a soft tissue injury. He's a vet. He's done this before. He's been around the block many, many times. And they said that they're going to take it all the way up to Sunday. But you go and make a roster move and add a Khalid Kareem. I mean, it tells me that you also added another guy to injured reserve. We'll talk about that here in a second. But Chris Lindstrom and Matthew Bergeron in a little worrisome news. Neither of them participated for a second straight day. But Leonard Floyd, I'm not sure if he's going to play. He did not play on Sunday. Didn't even travel with the team to Germany. Would not be the craziest idea to think that he doesn't play again this week, just as he's nursing up that injury. Soft tissue injuries can be tough. They're hard to come back from. And then Sam Roberts, he's been dealing with a knee and ankle thing that he picked up last week. Again, that's another guy that I'm not 100% sure is going to be able to play in this game. But Chris Lindstrom and Matthew Bergeron. Matthew Bergeron was elevated from week to week to day to day. That may not mean a lot to a lot of people, but based off of Raheem Morris ease, that says that there is a chance that he plays this week. Chris Lindstrom, I expect to play this week. I think that you're coming back from a trip to Germany. That's a 9-hour flight. You have to do readjustments. And whenever I talk to even just people in the media who took that trip to Germany, they were still adjusting as of Wednesday. It takes a couple days. It takes it out of you. And it's difficult when you're then gearing up and having to go business as normal here if you're the Atlanta Falcons. So it's going to be tough for these guys, especially some of these guys who are nursing some kinds of injuries. It'll be an interesting thing to see if they're able to go here in this week. But in positive news, though, I will say it's not all negative. It's a long list of limited participants, which isn't great, but it's not also a massive red flag. It's just kind of a big orange flag, maybe a yellow flag. Let's put it that way. Jake Matthews is probably chief among those. He had another day where he's resting. It's a non-injury related limited participation. I wonder if that has something to do with the time change or something like that. I'm speculating on that. I don't know if that's the case or not. But D. Alford, Mike Hughes, the cornerbacks, both of them are kind of nursing their way back. Mike Hughes did not play on Sunday. He was a game time decision, but he took it all the way up until Sunday. D. Alford had picked up a concussion in the game. That's going to be important, especially with the way that Billy Bowman played last week. Not that he played poorly. It's just that he's on the limited participant list today. This was another one of those guys who are coming in to rest. Felipe Franks is added to the list here today. He's dealing with a foot injury, but he was a frequent visitor on that list. Zach Harrison, Brendan Dorless, defensive linemen who are on that list. Jamal Agnew's on this list. Drake London's on this list. It's expansive. Now, of these guys, I don't know how many of them are not going to be able to play. It's just a limited participant. That doesn't say what they participated in. This could literally mean that they lined up and stretched. It could mean that they did everything and then they had to leave early. I don't know. They don't let us view that part of practice. But as far as everything else is concerned, and I think that a lot of these guys should be able to play. I think Friday's injury report is going to be pretty telling, just with the volume of players that are on this list. Because, I mean, good Lord, they would not be able to function without some of these guys. So I know, just speaking from just somebody who's up at Flowery, I'm confident that some of these guys will be able to play. But again, we'll know more just as the weeks go on. I see some people have dropped in some comments, and I'm willing to jump into these as much as you can, as much as you drop them in there. So DeMarcus drops in a remorse, fire and. Well, I'm assuming that you want him to be fired. It's not there yet. I'm not to that level yet. I'm not calling for anybody's job. That's not my job to do that, first off. But I know fans are very upset, and that comes when you lose games. If you're losing football games, that's one of those things that's going to be just coming up time and again. They've lost 4 games in a row. It's been brutal. It's been very, very disappointing. And they got another tough test on Sunday. A team who's now 500 and got off the mat because of you. It's a division rival, but we'll see what can happen with that. We're going to talk about that game coming up here in a little bit. Terry says 1-2-3 Cancun. Brutal, man. Come on now. They're not there yet. They're not statistically eliminated from the playoffs. I'm not going to say that they're going to go to the playoffs, and I think that'd be something of a miracle at this point. You're expecting this team to kind of go 7-1, I think is probably the baseline, maybe 6-2 and get a lot of help. 7-1 is probably the minimum that you have to do. We'll see. I think that's going to be very difficult. King Richie comes in here, says, do you think Penix is really not getting help on the field? Or getting on the field help? No, I don't think that's true. No, he's absolutely getting on the field help. I think that was a context that was taken. The context of that, we addressed it yesterday on the pod. We can talk about it a little bit here today. It was woefully taken out of context. Woefully taken out of context. Of course, he's getting support on the field. I've seen people talking about how nobody goes up to him and talks to him or whatever. I mean, DJ Williams is up in the booth. He's the quarterback's coach. And Zach Morris, look, Zach Robinson, literally, I combined Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson's name there. Zach Robinson quite literally moved down to the sideline to talk to his quarterback more. And he's doing it. I've seen him. I'm in the freaking stadium and I'm looking at him. I have binoculars and I'm looking at them on the sideline. Shoot, I'll take a picture of it next time and send it to people. I mean, I understand a lot of the frustration and a lot of the comments that are coming out, and some of them are warranted. This one is not. To say that this guy's not getting any support, not getting anything from the coaches, and they're just leaving him floundering on the sidelines is ridiculous. It's a complete farce. It's fabricated. It's made up by upset fans. And we got to be better than that. Look, if you're going to come for somebody, if you're going to get mad at somebody, make sure it's for something that's legitimate. And I have something that's kind of legitimate too, that should annoy fans. It should annoy fans more than what this whole fiasco is. Right. But I want to get to this one quick transaction that happened today. D'Angelo Malone, he was added to the injured reserve. Not a guy who takes a lot of snaps on defense, but he is a valuable contributor on special teams. That matters a lot, especially when you have a unit that is struggling the way that it is. Josh Woods is another one of those guys who's on your DNPs today. That matters, right? And you lose guys like that, that hurts. But It's not going to be something that you feel necessarily on a defensive basis. But Khalid Kareem, he was added. He was on the practice squad. He got elevated, and he's added to the 53-man roster earlier today. But CJ Henderson is also back. He's making his return. He got cut when the Falcons went out and signed Ben Sauls to the practice squad. That practice squad spot opened up, and it's kind of fluctuated a little bit. But welcome back, CJ Henderson. So good to have you. But the big thing that I think that people should be a little bit more upset about, and if you have comments, questions, whatever, if you have things that you want me to get to, I'm more than happy to do that. Just drop it into the comments there. But the thing that I think people should be a little bit more frustrated about is what happened over the summer and what we have since found out about what happened with Darnell Mooney. He broke his collarbone on the first day of training camp. First play of training camp. Says Raheem Morris in a radio interview with 92.9 The Game. That is not information that was previously known. We had no idea that happened. And look, I went back through the records and people are like, oh, he was day-to-day. He's this and this and that. I'm like, he didn't exactly say that. He said that there is no update at this time. But I think that there was this mindset that he was due back any day now. Like there was a chance he could come back this week. Oh, maybe this week. Oh, maybe he'll be ready to go by the beginning of the season. Very similar to the kind of discourse that we had around Troy Anderson. And at this point, I mean, looking back on it, fine. But in the moment, I know that I had a thought that he was going to be back very soon based on the way that Raheem was talking about it. But now that we know that it was a collarbone, collarbones take a while to recover from. And I mean, take the internet for what you will. A minimum of 3.5 to 4 weeks, a minimum of that, right? And then you have the ramp up period. So it's not even the fact that he wasn't healthy. You can't run when you have a collarbone issue. So like if you break your collarbone, you're not running, you're not really moving, you're not doing a whole bunch. That takes a while to come back from. Plus, you're not able to move your arms up and around and do everything else. And like that's a pretty significant injury. That's significant. And that was something that was going to take him a good while to ramp back up from, right? So first off, you heal the muscle, you heal the bone, then you have to rehab the bone or rehab everything else. And then you got to get back and you got to build some chemistry with your quarterback. It was a nightmare from the start. They were damned before the season even got started. And it's a really, really frustrating thing. And then you also add in the hamstring injury that hits them just soon after that. He was screwed from the beginning. And I wonder if I'm speculating here. I wonder if the hamstring had anything to do with him, pressing the matter and trying to do a little too much or something like that. I don't know if that's true. I can't prove that. I don't think anybody would try to prove that necessarily. But that's one of those things that it's just kind of frustration that builds on frustration. And what I am most upset about is the fact that they knew that it was a broken collarbone at the beginning of camp. And the only body that you add to this roster is a veteran DJ Chark who wasn't even on the roster a month later. He was cut very quickly. Very, very quickly. And the Falcons were then going to lean on Drake London. Fine. Ray McLeod, not even on the team anymore. Casey Washington and David Sills. And then maybe DJ Chark, the ghost of DJ Chark. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. And it's really frustrating, especially when we come into the season talking about how thin the wide receiver room was already. And you were expecting to see a jump from some of these guys. Of course, you can never predict that Darnell Mooney is going to get injured, but you can say that, hey, if it does happen, this team might be kind of screwed. Since then, they've been screwed. They have no explosive passing attack. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL against man coverage. And Michael Penix, a young quarterback, has struggled. He has the 31st ranked completion percentage. You don't have a wide receiver who can catch the football aside from Drake London. Drake London's been tremendous. He's one of the best NFL wide receivers in the league, right? He's one of the best receivers in the league. Aside from him, it's nothing. It's nothing. Your number 2 receiver is your running back. Your number 3 receiver is your tight end. Darnell Mooney was expected to come back in here and do what he did last season. Just damn near get you 1,000 yards. He's your guy who's going to get across open in the middle of the field. And that's the thing that people should be frustrated about. That's what people should be frustrated about. Why didn't Terry Fontenot go get another body to add to the wide receiver room? Somebody who could legitimately push for a starting spot. I mean, shoot, guys. I was talking about how this team needed to draft one. Now you look at it and you lose this guy at the beginning of camp. And look, there are not a ton of options. It's not like people are lining up to ship their wide receivers other places, but these kind of trades happen. I mean, this is a perfect place for, I don't know, a Tyler Lockett or something like that. I mean, there are guys out there who you could have gone and got. And it's a little frustrating that now you've had all of these massive glaring issues that you knew you were going to have from the beginning. That is something to be frustrated about. That's something that you should be frustrated about, because these are issues that we anticipated and these are issues that ended up happening. That is frustrating. Okay. So I know King Richie, I know it started with your comments about Michael Penix. I think a lot of those things are a little silly. Just a lot of the comments that have come from what Michael Penix was saying, completely taken out of context what he said. And it's a little disappointing that it happened the way that it did. All right, I got Terry jumping in here. He says, coaching staff is doing the best they can. Pretty sure they're just outmatched or undermanned. It's a hamster wheel of losing. Defense is soft up the middle. Offense can't get first downs. It's over. It's not over. Offense actually can get first downs. The offense is fine getting first downs. They just can't get a first down on third down, right? They actually damn near had the same number of first downs as the Indianapolis Colts did on Sunday. Like, they're picking up first downs. They got first downs when they were up in New England. They didn't get first downs against the Dolphins, but also that was Kirk Cousins starting and on short notice. They struggled in San Francisco, but no, the last 2 weeks, they've actually been just fine getting first downs. They're just on fourth down or third down. That's where they've really struggled, right? And yeah, I mean, they're undermanned. Yeah, sure. But injuries have also just ravaged this team. You lose your starting right tackle. You lose your second string right tackle. You're playing a third string guy. Then you lose your left guard. Then you lose your right guard. Then you lose your second string wide receiver. Then you lose your first string wide receiver. Then you lose your quarterback for a game. Then you lose your most important defensive player. Then you lose your number one cornerback. Then you lose your nickel cornerback. I mean, this team has been ravaged by injuries. And you saw those come to a head against the Dolphins. That was a game where, look, that's still a professional freaking football team. And look and see what they've done since then. The Dolphins have been one of the better teams since then. Now, it's a small sample size, and I don't think the teams are necessarily all that great that they're playing and beating, but they just beat the damn Bills, right? That's not a team. We talk about some of these teams as if this is the Mississippi School for the Blind or something. This is not college football. These are professional football teams. But no, I mean, undermanned, yes, because their team got hurt. To answer your question, Terry, I mean, a hamster wheel of losing. Yeah, recently it has been. It's been very, very bad here in Atlanta. They haven't gone to the playoffs since 2017. Shoot, man, they haven't had a winning record in that time. And that part is really frustrating. As somebody, a native son of Atlanta, that's very frustrating, right? Soft up the middle. They're not soft up the middle. They're a little undersized up the middle. I know that, I mean, what was it? Our friends over at the Falcoholic were talking a little bit about that. Just about how this team doesn't have a lot of big dudes, right? And Taquan Graham was your second guy that you even had on this roster that's over the 300 pounds, and you waived him? Like, you literally just cut him? Yeah, so they're not soft up the middle. They're just undermanned, right? I think that's probably a better way to say that. And it's something that they need to address. They need a nose guard. They need a big old guy in the middle that they can actually lean on to do something. And look, I love Rook. I love Brandon Dorlus. Those are two guys who've been fantastic, but you need some bigger bodies. You need some guys, some thicker boys in the middle that can actually get something done in the run defense. And some of the run defense issues, some of those are just like based off of the scheme that they're playing and the fact that your offense isn't doing jack diddly. You need your offense to start scoring some points. Otherwise, that attack style front is not really going to be doing a lot of attacking. It's going to be on its back foot, and that's not when it's at its best. But that's just the reality. That's just where the Falcons find themselves. It's a kind of a difficult spot here. Huge game coming up here on Sunday. Joe Mata says, shopping wide receiver at Kmart. Yeah, basically. Maybe the Piggly Wiggly or something. I'm not gonna crap on Piggly. I like Piggly Wiggly. Yes, the Dollar General, I guess you could say, of wide receivers. It was just not a good situation, and it was just very disappointing that now we find out that it was an injury that was much more serious than what we initially thought it was. Just disappointing. All right, let's talk a little bit about the matchup that we got coming up here on Sunday. If you're new here, we got a bunch of people in the pod right now. Make sure to like the video. I really appreciate that. Share that with your friends. If you're on Twitter, hit that retweet button. We'd really appreciate it. If you're over on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button. And if you want to follow all my content that I got coming out, give me a follow at GChapATL or head over to Falcons on SI, just si.com/NFL/Falcons. And you can jump in and see all the great stuff that we have coming on over on the website. We got a lot of stuff coming out this weekend. Critical weekend here for our Atlanta Falcons. But welcome. Thrilled to have all of you good folks here. Let's talk about the Panthers a little bit. So this is a team, it's hard to get a read really on this team because they start the season 0-2. I think a lot of people thought they knew who they were at the beginning of the year. And then everything changed in week 3. Just unfortunate that the team they played that flipped their script was this Atlanta Falcons team. So they start 0-2, and then since then they're 5-3. However, they have lost 2 of their last 3, including a game last week that was not great. I don't know how many folks, kept the TV on and kept watching football. Some people get so sour after their team loses that they don't want to watch football for the rest of the day. I am not that guy. I turned on and I watched this Panthers-Saints game, and it was a game that you kind of want to turn off. It was sloppy. It was ugly, and not just because of the 2 teams who were on the field. Panthers and Saints, ugly. 17-7 was the final score. Panthers lose. They scored just 7 points in this game, and they lose by double digits. Not great here for this Panthers team, but they're 4-1 in close games this season. And defensively, they've actually done really well in recent weeks, especially. 3 of their last 4 opponents have been held under 18 points. So how are you going to attack that and potentially change your luck? First off, we talked about it a little bit. I mentioned it. Somebody, one of the comments, 3rd down offense. That is the key. It is the linchpin of what this team needs to do. Stay on the damn field. You're converting 33% of your 3rd downs this season. That is 29th in the NFL. But you're also doing that early in possessions. So I looked at the total number of 3rd down conversions, and that part, I'm talking even attempts. The Falcons aren't attempting a lot of 3rd downs. They're 29th in the NFL in attempts. You know what that tells me? They're not getting into opportunities to even convert the 3rd downs, right? That means that they're not staying on the damn field. It means that they have possessions, and we've seen that. And look, the stats back up what I'm actually watching on the field, right? You see 3 and outs, and if it's not a 3 and out, you have a 6 and out, or a 5 and out, or a 4 and out, or something like that, where you have 4 plays and then you're off the field, and you're putting your defense right back out there against really good offenses, a la the Indianapolis Colts. That's why you lose these games. And then you do that, and then you're also putting more pressure on your young quarterback to go out and make a big play. You need more big plays there from a Drake London or a Bijan Robinson. You're giving your running game fewer opportunities to touch the rock. You're not having enough plays. And when you don't have enough plays, Tyler Algier doesn't get his love. Bijan doesn't get his touches. Darnell Mooney can't get involved. I mean, that's one of the realities of this. You have to convert 3rd downs. You have to be better here. And ironically, that was a spot that they were pretty good at for a while. But like we talked about yesterday, we saw it on Sunday. They didn't have a single 3rd down conversion in week 10. Unacceptable. Going back your last 4 games, of which you've lost all 4, you're converting 20%. 20%. That is not good enough. It's not good enough. And they don't need me to say this. They know it. They've heard it all week. They've heard it for several weeks. Now you just got to prove it. And I mean, we talked yesterday about the situations that the Falcons found themselves in 3rd and long. It was on average, it was 3rd and 7. So what do? You have to drop back and pass. And so Penix dropped back and passed on all 8. And he failed on all 8. He was sacked 3 times. Some of those were not his fault. Some of them were. He completed just 1 of 5 passes for -4 yards. Some of those were his fault. Some of them were. I mean, good God, man. And it comes down to early down success, and that's execution. Down and distance is critical, and you have to be better. They have to be better. And it goes across the board. That's execution as much as it is coaching. I know a lot of people want to sit here and just crap on the offensive coordinator, but there are a lot of things that this team can do better. A lot of things that this team can do better. And it starts with just executing the plays properly. Missed assignments, blown blocks, guys who aren't jumping on the line of scrimmage. Right. So you look at the left tackle, Jake Matthews. Of course, he's been here for forever. He doesn't get the snap count. He's just standing there on 3rd down. All 4 other offensive linemen, they drop back into pass protection. It's just the one guy on the left side doesn't. And his guy, and the guy he's on the guy he's supposed to block, goes right past him and blows up the play. Michael Penix gets sacked. Failed 3rd down conversion. Team has to punt. Execution is critical, and this team is not doing it well enough. Fortunately, the team you're playing also is not very good on 3rd down defense. They're allowing an average of 7.5 yards per play on 3rd down. That's 31st in the NFL. Falcons could get a get-right game here. It's a get-right type of game. Now, I know a lot of people were saying that the first time they played the Panthers, and we saw what happened in that one. But no, this is also a team that you can get some explosive plays. The Panthers defense has allowed 70 explosive plays. You know what that tells me? Bijan Robinson might have a game. The video game numbers, they just haven't really been there in recent weeks. You had 140 yards on the ground against the Colts. The running game was working. First time since week 6 that you've had a positive EPA per rush. But the Panthers are allowing 4.85 yards per carry. I mean, this is a spot where the Falcons need to turn around and hand the ball off. That's how you take some pressure off of Michael Penix. And it's no surprise. Hey, lean in. Come here. Bijan Robinson, when they're held under 100 scrimmage yards, Falcons lose. All 4 games that he has been held under 100 yards from scrimmage, they've lost. 0-4. 0-4. That tells me you need to get him the rock. You need to give him the ball. Sometimes it is that simple. It's just a frustrating spot the Falcons find themselves in. But the thing is, you just got to get the ball to your stars. And the star is Bijan Robinson. It is Drake London. You're getting Drake the ball. You got to get Bijan the ball too. But Mike needs to keep elevating. He's got to take advantage of this secondary that's just consistently getting burned, right? Tyler Shugg just got burned by the Saints. Or the Saints, and they burned the Panthers is what I'm saying. You got to get a better completion percentage. He's got to get the easy ones. The footwork has been a problem, and of course he's been under fire for a lot of the footwork stuff and everything else. But I will also say this. I thought he played really well in New England. Obviously, he did it against Indianapolis. Going back to the near interception on Sauce Gardner. After that, he looked terrible. Had just 3 completions in the 4th quarter, 30% completion percentage in the 4th quarter. And they all came on one drive. So you had 4 other possessions. He attempts passes on every single one of those possessions, and he doesn't complete a single pass. That's not good. But I will say this about Mike. He plays a lot better when he's at home. Granted, that's only happened 3 times compared to 5 games on the road. At home, he's 2-1. On the road, he's 1-4. At home, he's completing 67% of his passes. On the road, it's 53. At home, it's 287 yards per game. At home, it's 1 1/3 touchdowns per game. It's a quarter of an interception per game. Just 1 interception, by the way. On the road, that drops to 189 yards per game, just 1 touchdown, and almost a half interception per game. This is pretty glaring. And this is a young quarterback. It's not all that unsurprising. Not all that unsurprising. So help your quarterback help himself. And a lot of that comes back to just being at home, getting the ball to his skill players. Bijan Robinson. All right, I see some questions. I got G over there on Twitter. Says, Garrett, if we drop another game to the Panthers, you think Raheem gets fired? I think there's the best chance that he gets fired comes on Monday. If the Falcons lose on Monday, there'd be a 5-game losing streak in the middle of your season. I think that's probably the best shot that it comes. And it's an unfortunate thing. I'm not going to root for somebody to get fired. I like Raheem the person. I think Raheem's a good dude. The results just haven't been there. And if you lose a 5th one, including a game to the Carolina Panthers at home, and you get swept by them, especially if it's ugly, that'll be all she wrote probably. But again, I'm not predicting that's going to happen necessarily. I actually think the Falcons are going to win this game. I always predict splits. That's just what I do when I prognosticate, I guess you can say. I'm not going to predict a split probably against the Saints because that's kind of an outlier. But we'll see with that one. The road game in New Orleans, that's generally where the Falcons struggle. There's one coming up soon, so we'll talk about that one later. But no, to answer your question, G, I mean, it's probably a decent chance that it happens. It's also not something that Arthur Blank likes to do. He did it with Dan Quinn in 2021, in 2020. But there were also some other things that were going on with that. I think you kind of you saw the writing on the wall going into the season. There was the realignment of duties in the offseason. Thomas Dimitroff and Dan Quinn then having to, I think they had to report to Rich McKay or something, and then Rich McKay was reporting to Arthur Blank. There was like this whole weird thing that was going on at the time, and it's spelled out they're going to get fired if they struggle, and then they start 0-5, ironically, and then they lose, I think, at home or on the road, but to the Panthers, and that's when Dan Quinn got. That is the only time that Arthur Blank has fired a head coach midseason. Every other termination has come at the end of the season. I think Dan Reeves, he informed him that he was going to be fired at the end of the year, and then he resigned and stepped away. Doesn't technically count, but it's not something that Arthur Blank typically likes to do. But if it's going to happen, I think it would happen on Sunday or after Sunday. I think there's a decent enough chance. I'm not cheering for it by any means. Whatever. G says, it's that simple. Talking about Bijan Robinson. Yeah, it is that simple. I asked him about it, and a lot of it does come back to game flow. And it's not as simple as just giving him carries either. People I know on 92.9 The Game, I was working with Turtle, Chris Thomas, and we had a bunch of callers saying, well, he doesn't touch the ball enough, just citing his rushing carries, not noticing the fact that he's on pace for a career high in receptions. You're getting him the ball a lot. He's touching the ball a lot. And some of it is on him. Some of it, he just needs to make a couple more plays and just be the Superman that he needs to be. But it's one of those types of situations that sometimes it's that simple. Like you see it in the NBA, and of course, different sport, but you go to your superstar. When you need offense, you go to your star. When the Falcons need offense, they got to go to Bijan Robinson, and that's what they need to do here on Sunday, and I expect that to happen. Yusuf Russell, 7289 on YouTube says, hey, Garrett, with you being around the team, do you get any vibes that the guys are still confident they can turn the season around? I actually do. The vibe in the locker room, that's a great question, by the way. The vibe in the locker room is still pretty good. Now, after losses, that's different. I mean, everyone's going to be very emotional after a loss. I mean, that's just life in the NFL. Very competitive players. But, yeah, I mean, I do. The more I talk to, like, Caden Ellis, a Jalen Walker, I mean, you talk even to Michael Penix during the week. They're confident. They think they can. And some of that is just youthful arrogance, I think. But sometimes you kind of need that. You need to have that mentality of you against the world. And like you're that heart, mind, fist, whatever. Like, and all these other little phrases that like to come out of Flowery Branch and coaching football and stuff like that. But no, I don't get the feeling that they've given up. I think that they are still around this. They're still rallying around this coaching staff. They're still rallying around Michael Penix. They're still rallying around this team. And I think that they really do believe that they can get some wins. And they've been close. Admittedly, they have been close. I mean, you have the two outlier games, which aren't excusable by any means. And I'm not trying to excuse those. But you go back through a lot of these other losses. You go back to week 1, it's a missed field goal. And then you go to week 3, outlier game. Week 4, you turn it around against the Commanders. And then you come out and you wax the Bills. And then it's a really close game that comes down to a 4th down conversion with Drake London, an execution in San Francisco. Then you come back to Atlanta. You lose the wacky game against the Dolphins where you lose multiple starters on Saturday coming into the game, and it just throws a wrench into your game plan. And then you go play the New England Patriots, and you lose on an extra freaking point. And then you go to Berlin and you lose in overtime to the NFL's best team. I mean, guys, we're talking about two teams who combined for 16-4 on the season, and you lose to them by a combined 7 points, one of which goes to overtime. They're very close. It's not as far as you think. It's frustrating as hell because this team should be better, and they haven't looked good at times. That's the problem. I think this team has some pretty glaring holes, but they also still have talent. And I think that the talent says that they can still go and achieve something. I don't know if it's going to be enough to reach the playoffs. I'm not going to predict that it's going to be enough to reach the playoffs. I think that would be kind of arrogant and inaccurate, truthfully, because they'd have to. I think that they legitimately have to go 7-1. I need to see them string together a 3-game winning streak for only the second time since 2020, 2018 or something like that. It's been a long time since this team has won that many games in a row. 3 games in a row. I think it's literally happened one time since 2019 or 2018 or something like that. It's been a while. So until they actually do that, it's going to be very difficult to really buy into them. G over there on Twitter says, have you talked about Mooney's broken collarbone? Yes. Yes, I did. Explains a lot, but I can't believe it just came out. Reem didn't have to share it. Piece of me wishes he didn't, and yes, I did. G, if you hit that rewind button, I talked about it about close to the beginning of the pod, probably about 8 minutes into the podcast. I'd say I jumped on it. I was frustrated. I was mad about it. And it's irritating the way that it happened. But yeah, hit that rewind function and you can go check that out. Appreciate you jumping in here, man. Bernie Falcon says, at this point, the best we can hope for is putting together some wins and not get embarrassed. We have some developing talent. Let them get ready for 2026. I'm ready for the 2026 season. Bernie Falcon, I said this, you can go back and listen to any of my other podcasts at the beginning of the season and training camp. This team was gearing up for 2026. I wanted this team to make the playoffs. That was my expectation. Get to 10 wins, make the playoffs. Next season is when you can actually push in and become a contender, assuming that things go your way, right? That's a massive if, right? You have a young quarterback, you have skill players who I think are ascending and getting to that level. I at the time, this is also before Caleb McGarry gets hurt and before Divine Diablo and all these other injuries that hit this team. I thought that this team can get to 10 wins. I think that's what I predicted. I think I predicted 10-7 is what I predicted. But not get embarrassed. No, of course not. You can also turn around and look at the Miami Dolphins. I talked about a little earlier. That's a team who, a lot of people were like, hey, just don't get embarrassed. Go fire Mike McDaniel. Where is he going to be next? And people on this podcast are talking about how he's going to be the offensive coordinator and stuff, right? Now it's not even looking like he's going to get fired because the team rallied around him and they're winning football games. Things turn around quickly in the NFL. So no, I'm not saying that that's the best we can hope for, but I do think that there is something within what you're saying about how this team can gear up and get better as they move into 2026. The best players on this team are young. The best players on this team, for the most part, are under contract for the next few years. That tells me that 26 was the goal all along. I'm just worried about play calling. I'm worried about the confidence of your quarterback. I'm worried about little things here and there that aren't indicative of a winner in the NFL. And you can potentially gloss over one or two of those things, not all of the things that have stacked up on this Falcons team. They've got depth issues at wide receiver. They've got depth issues on the offensive line and aging tackles. You have a right tackle who's going to be coming off of a season-ending injury. You got a left tackle who's in probably the last year of his professional career, if not second to last year. He doesn't have a lot left in the tank there. Still really good. He started every game. So, but Jake Matthews, how much longer can he actually do it? I'd say the defensive line is pretty good. You need to go add a nose tackle of some kind. You need to add some beef in the middle, but outside of that, you're pretty solid there. Maybe you can add a veteran or something at edge that maybe just bring back Leonard Floyd. But James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker are your edges of the future. Divine Diablo's here next year. Maybe you bring back Caden Ellis. Maybe you add another linebacker. Your quarterback room, are you going to stick with Mike Hughes? Maybe you go draft somebody, but you don't have a first-round pick. But AJ's here. Billy Bowman's here. Jesse Bates is going to be here. Xavier Watts is going to be here. Your secondary should be pretty good, right? Your defense should be fine. But your offense, Bijan's going to be in the final year of fourth year of his deal. Tyler Algier, is he going to be here next year? It just depends. So there are a lot of questions, and I think that this should be, again, a really talented team in 2026. It depends on who's going to be calling plays. Depends who's going to be the head coach. I think there were a lot of questions around this. Tony Bradley says Morris had a medical issue and is in the hospital. I did not see that. I did not see that. If you can drop a link of a credible source there, then I can, I'll jump in that. Tony, appreciate the tip on that, but I've not heard anything. I cannot confirm one thing or the other. I just looked at my phone quickly, and I think my phone would be blowing up if that were the case. No, I don't see anything. I hope not. Obviously, I hope not, Tony. And but I mean, again, if you have a credible source that can post that or send that, just feel free to drop that in the chat, and I will address it. Groovy Tone says players will loaf on Sunday. Said they have lost hope and will not continue with a first-time play card. That's not true. I can go ahead and tell you that that's completely and totally false. There is no loafing in the NFL. You don't loaf on the football field. That's not what happens. These are professional football players. They're not going to do that. You might loaf. That's fine. These are professional football players. A college player might loaf. That's an amateur, technically. These are professional football players. They're playing for their contracts now, and they're playing for the future of their future contracts. This is their job. This is their job. They're not going to not go out and play hard. Plus, there's still belief in the locker room that they can go get something done. The season's not washed. The season's not done. The season has hit a massive hurdle, and it's probably going to be one that's going to be too big of a mountain to climb. But they've dug themselves a hole, right? How many more analogies can I use? I mean, it's brutal. But you say the writing's on the wall. It's not yet. Not till they've lost. They haven't lost yet. They're not going to go out and loaf on Sunday. They're not going to go out and loaf and get somebody hurt just to get some random coach fired because you don't like them. Come on, let's be real. Let's be very, very, come on. John Moreno says, listen, Arthur Blank needs to go hire Kubiak. There are all good coaches. I believe 100% they will take us to the promised land. If and when we get there, I think Kubiak is going to be the hottest name in this next cycle. Whether or not he takes a job remains to be seen. I don't know if he wants to be, or if he's going to jump in there and be a head coach next year. But he has been a hot name. I mean, I think he was in New Orleans last year. He did a pretty good job there, good job there. And then he's in Seattle now. I mean, look, he's a good coach. Falcons also have a coach right now. I think those are issues that we can address later on down the road. Red Swarm says, hey, Garrett, rise up. What priority would you place on getting a wide receiver 2, either in next year's draft or free agency? I thought we should have done it last year, but they need to bring somebody in. Whether or not it's a wide receiver 2 is it's a relative term. They will add somebody in the wide receiver room. They will. I mean, you don't have enough guys on this roster, and I'd say you add 2 guys. They're going to draft at least 1 wide receiver this year. I'd be blown away if they don't. And then I would add a veteran. I don't know who the veteran free agents are that are going to be out on the market. You're not going to make a trade at this point. Obviously, the trade deadline is passed. So you're not adding anybody this year for this season. But I haven't seen the list of expiring contracts either, but I can check that out. I mean, that's another offseason discussion point. And we have tons of time to talk about all that. But to answer your question, yes, it's a high priority. They're absolutely going to add 1, if not 2. Groovy Tone, I see you're coming back. It's a tall order for a team full of rookies, though. You're not really a rookie anymore. No, I don't consider a Jalen. I mean, these are guys who are now, they've played a lot of games. They've played several games. You're also being led by, I don't know, an offensive line that's got lots of talent, lots of veteran leadership. You have veteran leadership on your defense. The no depth thing. Yeah. So I see your point with no depth. Yeah, they don't have any depth. It's something that I was very critical of. And that's a Terry Fontenot thing. And even worse coaching. All right, man. But I mean, look, this is it. They've got a big hill to climb. And if they don't reach the postseason, it'll do exactly what everybody's expecting. We can't worry about the postseason right now. That's not what they're focused on. They're focused on Sunday. And then they got to focus on the Sunday after that. I mean, one of the big pieces of irony is the fact that this is a Falcons team who has 2 coaches who were on a Rams team a couple of years ago, completely different circumstances. I'm not trying to compare them necessarily, but That Rams team in 2023 started 3-6, and they finished 7-1 and made the postseason. It's happened. It's happened. I'm not predicting it to happen. Also, Matthew Stafford was the starting quarterback of that team. You have a young quarterback who's made a handful of starts. It's not necessarily the same situation. But look, it's going to be very difficult. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think that they have an opportunity to win on Sunday. I'm going to predict them to win on Sunday, but we shall see. All right, I got some more comments coming in here. I'll answer a few of these, and then I want to talk one more thing about this game, and then getting back into this. Yeah, so I see some people shopping in here saying it was a Rusty, thank you. So fake article. Yeah, I don't know. I'm live, so if something is happening like that, it's yeah. So it's saying, people are saying it's a fake Facebook article. Thank God. Glad he's okay. If anybody cheers for that, you can leave the podcast. Like, get out of here. Yeah, Red Swarm says not seeing the reports. That's good. Yeah, we'll see. Hey, Groovy Tons. Yeah, I agree. I was just emotional. I know. I get it. I've been emotional too. I 100% understand. I completely understand. And that's fair. This is your communal space, man. This is a group therapy session. That's what we're here for. I'll keep on. He says, I'm calm now and thinking more clear. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you, buddy. And thank you for joining us in there here in the podcast, man. Anthony says, what are your thoughts on getting Jalen Waddle from Miami? I think that'd be great. I'd love to drive around a sports car. I mean, I'd love to get a Ferrari here. I mean, is it going to happen? No, they're not sending Jalen Waddle away. Especially with Mike McDaniel trending the way that he is right now. That's a team who needs a quarterback. And why would you send your best, most attractive piece? That's not something that they're going to do. He's under contract there for the next couple years, I believe. I thought it was a pipe dream just at the trade deadline. And they're not going to trade him in the offseason either. It's not a crazy lucrative contract either for a talented player. I'd be very surprised if it happens. All right. So let's get back to this game. If you have comments or questions, anything else like that, I'm happy to jump into that. But here, a couple more points here on this game on Sunday. Just breaking this whole thing down with you guys here on the Falcons podcast. Keep pushing that pass rush. You know, Jalen Walker, you've got 13 sacks here. Not Jalen Walker. He's got 3. But Jalen Walker in this pass rush, they have 13 sacks in the last 2 games. Right? Pretty good. It's pretty good. And Bryce Young, this is a guy who's only completed, he's actually done pretty well against the blitz. And this is a team who, pretty well is probably a one way to say it. He's okay, right? He's boom or bust. He's 38 of 67. He's got 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, but also 3 interceptions against the blitz. Bryce Young has been pressured at the 4th highest rate of any quarterback and has the 3rd lowest passer rating against the blitz. So that pretty much tells you what you need to know, because the Falcons love to blitz. It's almost 50% of their dropbacks, by far the highest rate in the league. We've talked about that almost every week this year, just because that's what they like to do. That's their bread and butter. And I wonder, based off of what you did in week 3, you blitzed him a lot, 63% of dropbacks in week 3, and he torched the Falcons. Again, that's another one of those things. He didn't torch the Falcons. He completed like 80% of his passes. That's what he did. He had all these damn checkdowns, and it was just pull your hair out. But it was just a check down after check down. But look, it worked, and it kept them on the field, and it kept them driving down this Falcons team. But look, if you're able to get some pressure on this guy, you've seen what Bryce Young does when he gets pressured. He turns the ball over. And I think that if you're able to do that, I mean, there's a reason this team has committed 15 turnovers this year, and they have a -5 turnover margin. It's a 28th worst in the NFL, right? Falcons don't turn the ball over all that much, but they did when they were in Carolina. I talked about those home road splits. They do a lot better when they're at home, especially in the turnover margin. But none of it matters if you can't stop the run. None of it matters if you can't stop the run. You just faced Jonathan Taylor. Now you got Rico Dowdle, a guy who has 827 total yards and 5 touchdowns over his last 6 games. Raheem called him, a man possessed. He's taking his game to a whole nother stratosphere. That's what Jeff Ulbrich said. Carolina's averaging 4.5 yards per rush. Falcons defense just got gashed by Indy for 300 plus. You just gave up 244 yards to Jonathan Taylor Rico Dowdle is licking his chops at the chance to play this Falcons defense. So all the pass rush conversation is great, but if you don't earn the right to rush the passer, it's all going to be a moot point, right? It'd be wonderful if your offense can score some damn points and take the ball out of Rico Dowdle's hands. That is one of the keys to this game. Score points early. Because if this turns into one of those types of games where they just pounding their head against the wall, Falcons are going to lose this game. Because that's the point where Rico Dowdle ends up touching the ball a lot of times. And just go back and look at his game log. The two worst games that he's had in there are games where the offense is, they get put behind and they have to play a little catch up. Those are the only times that he's held close to 50 yards, but he's had 50 yards plus in every single game that he's played as the starter, right? So this is going to be a difficult game here for the Falcons, but it all starts with stopping the run. But if you do that, if you win the early downs, you're going to give yourself a really good chance to win this game. And I think that the Falcons will win this game. And that's all you can do. You win the first game, and you can't worry about the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. That is all you can do, win one at a time. It's a one game at a time type of season here for the Falcons. And I think they've got a good mentality. I know some people talking about asking me questions about where this team is mentally. I think they're fine. I think they're ultimately fine. And they'll be in a pretty good spot here, especially if they get a win. Because if you win this one, you could win a game against the New Orleans Saints, which, again, nothing is guaranteed with this team at this point. And then you get a win over the Jets. You're 6-6, and that feels a whole hell of a lot different. But then, again, you get into some more very difficult games. You got the Seahawks. You got the Rams. It's going to be tough. But one game at a time, that's all you can do. All right, let me take a couple of more questions here. And then I'll jump into this, and then we'll probably finish up from there. Terry says 8 straight years without the playoffs. Hard to stay invested in that, Garrett. Yeah, it's very tough. Truth be told, it's tough. Then that's why I'm not going to predict it. I predicted at the beginning of the season, and it's just trending towards being incorrect. You're going to have to see some pretty crazy stuff for the Falcons to get to that level. But Groovy says, you see what Daniel Jones did to us on 3rd and 21. Bryce is licking his chops. Bryce Young can't do what Daniel Jones did on that. That's not a play that a lot of quarterbacks make. Daniel Jones, for all the flack that he's gotten, he's a pretty athletic guy. The guy's pretty athletic. He showed that in New York. He showed that in Indianapolis this season. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Josh Allen. He's not one of those guys, but he can get out and do things with his legs, and he did. And that's just, I think Jalen Walker fell down on that play, and he was the guy who had Daniel Jones, and it was a man coverage on the backside. Sucks. It's unfortunate, and ended up costing them the game. But that was one of many things that happened. But yes, I did see what happened on Daniel Jones, 3rd and 21. He scrambles the ball, whatever. And Grovey says, every time Bryce plays us, he thinks it's the Alabama-Georgia national championship game every time, which, happened in Atlanta. So we'll see. Bryce Young does seem to elevate. We shall see. Alex comes here, says, no matter how bad B9 Bryce Young is playing, he always goes off against us. I don't think this Sunday will be any different. Always is a relative term. I think that's a little bit of recency bias. The last 2 games ago he did with the walk-off game where they beat us and they beat the Falcons in overtime. He did in that one. But as far as the game that he had in Carolina, that had very little to do with him, I would say it was just more ineptitude from the Falcons offense, and turnovers and other things that kind of leaned into that. And then the game just became out of reach. It was just one of those weird games. It was 10-0 at halftime, guys. And then the first play in the second half is a pick six. Falcons couldn't get anything going on offense. I just think that there's a little bit of revisionist history there on that game. It wasn't anything. Let me pull this up. I'm going to look this up. Because the game wasn't that crazy. Yeah. He had 121 yards passing against the Falcons, 0 touchdowns, and averaged 5 yards per completion. It's just the Falcons blitzed him a lot, and he hit checkdowns. It's not like he carved the Falcons up. He completed 66% of his passes. That's a fine game. 124 yards, not exactly carving people up. The game, yeah, like you say, groovy toast. Game got out of hand quickly. That's all it was. The offense just abandoned the run. And I think Zach Robinson, I blame him for that one more than anything else. All right, folks, it's been fun. I do think the Falcons are going to go get a win. Falcons need a win. Like a fish needs water. Let's be real. This is a Falcons team who needs to go get a win. Go be 4-6. If you can get to 4-6, maybe something else can happen. If you don't get to 4-6 and you go to fall at 4-7, who knows? It might be all she wrote. But again, that's a bridge that we can cross next week if and when we need to. My name is Garrett Chapman. This is the Falcons Podcast. Thank you so much for everybody who jumped in. If you are new here, welcome. Doesn't matter if you're joining live or if you're coming in after the fact. We love that you were here. We love that you were a Falcons fan and just jumping in here with some Falcons content. So make sure to like the video. Make sure to like the podcast. Make sure to subscribe. And then set your reminders. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we do this thing at 6 p.m. We go for however long we want to, and we kind of hang out for a little bit. So I was glad to have everybody in here with me. This is the Falcons Podcast. We will talk again after this game. Hopefully they can go get a win. We'll see if they can get that done. But my name is Garrett Chapman. This is the Falcons Podcast. We'll see you again next week. Thanks so much.